I think when you're a teenager and you have a friend group and you have friends, that's a different season. Mm-hmm. And what I would say to anybody who is in that season, like you being a teenager, anybody who's in a season of singleness where they're not married or have a boyfriend, so into those friendships and so into those relationships because they're so important.
Hello. Welcome back to the Gen Free podcast. Can I get a round of applause? Wow. I'm in this corner. A new switch. This is a student-led podcast focusing on discovering God's freedom in our everyday lives. My name is Ayana, and
I'm Ireland, your co-host. Ooh.
Yay, for today, our new co-host for the day. Because we kicked Sawyer out.
Yeah.
He doesn't belong here no more, sorry. Yeah, boom.
Yeah, he got fired.
Now, we also have two lovely guests with us today, one who is returning and one who is new. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I am Erica Bauer, married to Adam Bauer, the head pastor.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm excited to be here. And next to me is one of my very best friends.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Connolly, wife of Brian Connolly, who is the founder of Faith Like Birds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to be here with my BFF. So
Well,
it's going to be fun.
Regardless of your husbands, what do you two do? Like outside, we know your men. What do you guys do?
We know you're
There are so many answers to that question. Like there are so many things that I love to do. Thrifting is like one of the things that I love to do. I love photography and I love hiking. So those would be like my top three things. Do I get to do them a lot? No, because of 3 little kids, but those are things that I absolutely love to do.
Hiking.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I traveled to Scotland in the fall and it was basically a hiking trip. So we would hike. I think the longest we hiked was probably like 6 miles, but
I mean, to each their own. Hiking.
It was amazing.
By yourself? You went to Scotland by yourself?
Mm-hmm. With a group of like 6 girls who I did not know.
Oh.
So when we're talking about like friendship, like that was tough to do. Not knowing anyone.
Yeah, I would be terrified. Yeah.
That
is scary.
But I think in friendships you have to take risks too.
Yeah.
So, and I walked away from that with like 6 new friends.
That's awesome.
In Scotland, nevertheless.
Yeah.
Outside of your man, who are you, Nicole?
I'm an avid reader. I love to read. I like to go shopping. I don't do it very often. I would love to start thrifting. Erica is so good at thrifting.
Maybe that's a hangout
with Erica.
Yeah.
We just don't have enough time. I like to be outside. I like to plant things.
Plant mom?
I'm an outdoor plant person, not an indoor plant person. I don't know if it's just my house and the lack of sunlight inside or what, but yeah, outdoor planting. I like doing that kind of stuff. Gardening. I don't really have a garden, but I guess landscaping maybe. I don't know.
But, I mean, you do have plants throughout the room.
Yeah.
Even this room here. Yeah.
Some of them are fake. Some of them are real.
Yes.
She's also really good at like designing and like interior design.
Interior design. Yeah, your house is really nice decorated.
If I have free time, I'm like looking on my like newsfeed or whatever on something for like home decor stuff.
Well, I
like looking at
decor.
pictures and just like I love going into other people's homes and just seeing how like it's laid out and it's like, oh, you could do this or that, you know.
Little advice. Be like, actually, your
just like take a photo of like something
disgusting. Here's a suggestion.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. Because
she's like the fashionista and I'm like the decorative person.
Yeah. We could have a store together.
Yes.
Home and clothes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, in our spare time.
I think that would
You
be
could be on one of those home. What's that channel with all the like the home
HGTV.
Yes, HGTV.
You can incorporate
that is
thriftiness in it all.
What do we call the
thrifting pillows and like extra stuff.
And books. We'd have to have a book area.
Yeah, we would.
Let's decorate.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. This would be really good.
We do love to read. Like How many
share
books did you read last year?
Last year, I think I read 35.
Oh
my goal was
gosh.
32, I think. And this year, my goal was 35.
How many? are
She
you
put
at
the
so
goal
far?
that she made.
I'm like 2 ahead of schedule. Like it tells you like if you're on track.
Oh,
to
you track this?
Yeah, it's like it's an app called Goodreads.
Yeah, it's a
Oh.
great app.
It helps you because you are like, oh, did I read this already? Because I don't remember half the time. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I did. And you can rate it. You can see what other people rate books. And
Oh,
yeah, and you can just do goals for the year. So I think I'm either at 35 or 40 for this year.
Wow.
So we'll see.
oh,
It's been a little bit more difficult
that is
with
crazy.
having a puppy because I
Yeah.
feel like I'm not able to read as much. But
It's like another kid.
I think I'm still on the book that I started in September, so we're not.
Girl, me
I'm not the
too.
same.
Well, I think also when you're in school,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, do I really want to read another
that's
book
true. Yeah, that's true.
after going to school all day?
It
Yeah.
kind of sucks though, because there's like books I actually want to read, but I can't because it's just like I'm exhausted.
I love movies too. Erica doesn't like
Oh, I
movies,
love movies.
But I love
wow.
movies.
Adam loves
At all?
movies. Maybe
No.
that's
Well,
Interesting.
it's just that I can't sit still long enough to watch
Funny because Adam
understand
can't sit still.
that. Yeah,
But he
yeah,
still-
but he can. He loves movies.
yeah.
I
Maybe
just-
maybe that's something
Yeah.
Ryan and Eric can go do something fun, and you and Adam can go visit a movie.
oh my goodness.
That reminds me. You are a podcast that we love to listen to in the office. So shout out to Lexi and Morgan. And we were listening to the
Yeah.
one podcast where Brian and Nicole were on, and the crazy thing is that she went on a date with Adam prior. What?
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember that. I
Prior to
remember
now, this is
that.
before I met Adam and before I met Nicole.
Oh my
but
gosh.
it's
You
just
were here for this.
No,
one.
I wasn't.
She wasn't. Oh no, no.
What? No, I remember I was kicked out of the room.
what I don't know how it just came up, but it just did. But it's just so funny because they went. Where'd you go? Olive Garden.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Olive
do you
Garden,
know?
skee ball,
What?
and then a movie.
Do you know that he will not take me to Olive Garden?
It's because you're special.
Oh my god.
That's what it is.
Because you're different. He's like,
She's too good for Olive
Yeah.
that's
Garden.
not my formula.
But
That's
Olive
my
Garden
wife.
is one of my favorites, and he's like,
He refuses.
Yeah.
He won't.
He
Wow.
ruined that for himself.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Gosh,
So
that's
the
something.
only
That's
reason.
something.
That's the only reason it could be because like
Yeah,
yeah.
Maybe Brian will take you somewhere that he doesn't take Nicole.
yeah, maybe.
We'll see.
I'll go to Olive
That
Garden
is
with
funny
you.
though.
I know.
Yes, I'll go. Yeah.
So we're all going to
Yeah,
Olive
Brian doesn't
Garden.
care for
It's
it
a
really
date.
either. He'd rather go somewhere else. So.
That's a
Yeah.
man thing.
I
don't know.
I love Olive Garden.
I do too. I used to work there.
know.
Come on.
Yeah, it's
For real?
good.
Yeah. Olive Garden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like.
You give
The,
the vibe.
mints. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the Andes mints
all the
Oh,
time.
that would always be like our birthday dinner whenever.
Breadsticks. Come on.
So good, so
Yeah.
good.
The
I love
birthday
that
dish.
job.
Yes, and they'd be like, "Tell me when to stop." Here. Just like,
Yeah.
that's cheese. Oh, so good.
If you can work there and still like the food, I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah,
It's
gotta
and
be
you get
good.
like free food too because it's expensive.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my summer job.
Well, I think we've kind of already like started it, but our topic for today is community and friendship, specifically in the godly aspect. As you can tell, we're all hanging out, being girls, because you know it's the girl episode and whatnot. But I do have some questions I'd like to get into. But first, what we kind of gotta know before we get into this question is, how did y'all two become friends?
Do you want to go?
Oh,
Oh,
I don't recall exactly specifics because I was thinking about this already. I was like, oh, how did we actually first meet? Where was it? And I don't remember the exact place. Do you?
I don't. I mean, we went to Millersville. So Nicole is a year younger than I am. So she was a year behind where I was, but we were both elementary education majors.
Which ironically, we didn't run into each other that much
No.
in the classroom setting.
Yeah.
surprising.
And Millersville was a big enough campus that you didn't run into people all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that played a part in it. But when she started dating Brian and I started dating Adam, it was around the same time.
Yeah.
wow.
So that's when our lives started to just parallel, and it never stopped paralleling. It's still like running, it's just, I think something to know about me at Millersville, I was not a Christian. So I didn't go to Millersville as a Christian. And so from freshman to senior year, I was part of a sorority, and I loved my friends. I had great friends, but I didn't have like a Christian friend. That just was not my experience. So Adam had invited me to a Bible study. And I think that probably would have been the first time that we met.
Yeah, we went to this Bible study together, all four of us.
So you guys like met because of Adam and Brian, because they were already friends.
So they led this Thursday night Bible study. Now, Thursday night was also a party night at Millersville. And that was typically where I was. But I had started to kind of seek some things my senior year, just kind of knowing that this wasn't the path I wanted to continue on. And in speaking with Adam, he had remembered that about me and had invited me to this Bible study. And he and Brian and another guy, Mike Morby, right, led that. Yeah. So I remember showing up, and what I loved so much about that Bible study, I was so worried to go because I didn't have a Bible. And I was like, I'm not going to fit in. You know, I'm not a Christian. I don't even know what this is all about, but I'm going to go. I had a slight interest in Adam, so that was like a little bit of a motivator, but
just a slight,
just
a little
small smidge. So when I went, the beauty of it was I saw people sitting around that I had seen at Thursday night parties, and it made me feel comfortable knowing like, okay, these are people who I know who are also seeking something, you know, the Lord. And that was a comfort to me. And I'm pretty sure that's where like,
I think that's where we first saw each other.
Yeah. And you were there with a friend too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And then from there, like we started dating. I was dating Adam. She was dating Brian, and Adam and Brian, this was like my senior year.
Yeah.
Your junior year? Mm-hmm. And they were going off to seminary. So Adam and Brian were going to Kentucky, and we had to decide. I mean, at least for me, that was a big decision whether I was going to continue like a long distance relationship with someone who I just met. Yeah. And so we did. We continued that.
Yeah, and we met. I remember, I think you came over to my apartment, and we decided that we were going to be roommates in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. So we were going to follow our men.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
To the south.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
It
They were worth following.
We both
All right.
sought out teaching jobs in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And we both got jobs, and we lived in a duplex. So like, we each had our own bedroom. It was tiny, but it was really nice.
Yeah.
And they were right around the corner from us.
This is like a sitcom. Like this is like two girls fall in love with two best friends, and they become two best friends
It is
and
so
move.
true. Oh my gosh.
And y'all still follow each other.
Well, the crazy thing is, we ended up at one point, right? You felt called to come home.
Yeah. I did not handle moving well at all to Kentucky. It was so different. I mean, I don't know if Nicole felt this way, but going from Pennsylvania to Kentucky, it was two totally different cultures.
Yeah.
Very much,
Yeah.
very much
And
so.
it was, I had to relearn, I think, a lot. And I was still a new Christian. And I will tell you, I did not do that year of my life very well. That was a really hard year. I left family and left friendships. And I always go back to that and think about like, when I was in Kentucky and like I had this opportunity to become like so close to Nicole and close to these other girls who I taught school with. And I was just struggling so much to adapt that I missed out on a lot. So I think sometimes like on the topic of friendship, like I have not always done friendship well. And if I had to go back in time, I would have done things so much differently. So I lasted a year, and I was like, Adam, I cannot stay here. It's either like, if I get a teaching job, can we move back to Pennsylvania? And I did, and we left. So like, we were only roommates for a year, and
You took him with you.
I took him with me. We had gotten married.
Okay. Oh, you were married?
So
they were
married.
engaged.
Yeah.
So that one year,
Oh.
yeah.
Wait, were you guys engaged in the same year?
Yeah, we got engaged
and
around
we got
the same
married
time.
less than a month apart. 3
And
weeks.
3 weeks apart, we got married.
Who got
My
married
gosh.
first?
We did.
Y'all are crazy.
I bet they went ring shopping together. Brian and Adam, I know it.
I could see them
Let's,
staring
the
at
rings, they're the same.
The amazing part of all of that is, and I get teary-eyed when I think about it, I really do, because God is so amazing, and it's like pinch me, you know, at least for me. it's almost too good. So we didn't know what life looked like once Adam and Erica left. And we weren't super close at that point.
Right.
Yeah. And so we kind of went our separate way. After Brian was done seminary, we went our separate way, and he got a full-time job and I got a teaching job. And so we were doing our own thing, and we weren't near each other at all. We were back in Pennsylvania, but we would hang out sometimes. You would come to the house and we would play games, and our dogs would play. Our dogs loved each other.
They did.
Oh my gosh.
Aw.
Yeah. And we had a pug and she had a lab, and they were like best friends, which was kind of cute because everybody was best friends. But yeah. And then we just did life kind of apart from a distance, but still hung out every once in a while. And then when God called Brian and I to leave where we were and come here, I never in my wildest dreams thought that would have been possible. Yeah.
I think the wild thing about that is in friendship, when Adam prayed for a friend, he just needed one friend. When he prayed for that friend, it was Brian. And I know that they were on the podcast last week, so I don't know how much they shared.
Yeah.
But
I shared a lot.
Yeah.
when I think it's just like wild to think it is not a coincidence that they became friends. It's not a coincidence that we became friends. I think God has this plan with friendships. When you pray for a friend, that friend, you have the potential to go and change the world and change the lives of so many. And when I think about that, and I think about like Adam and Brian, they were just two guys at a university, you know, and they decided to lead a Bible study. And from there took them to seminary, and from there took them to two separate churches. But they both then had encounters with the Holy Spirit, not by coincidence. And then they got to lead a church together. And it's like, God knew all of that was going to happen.
I have goosebumps.
And for me, like, he also knew I needed a Christian friend. I still have like really close relationships with those girls who I met in college, but I didn't have like a Christian friend. And Nicole was that person to like walk alongside of me. And we both have experienced some hard things in ministry. Relationships lost in ministry, and some really tough things. And I think God knew I was going to need somebody to walk alongside me in that, because that has always been something like I'm insecure about, you know, being a pastor's wife. And I think she's been such a blessing because she's walked kind of like the same paths that I've had to walk. So
yeah. They opened up their home because we were kind of homeless at one point
That.
while we were in transition to come here. We weren't literally homeless, but our house was up for sale and we had to leave. Emma was very tiny. She was like 2
or 3. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they let us live. We lived with Adam and Erica for about 9 months.
Wow. So like when you guys, like you said, like, okay, like you came here, were you guys already here? Like Adam was already pastoring?
We were living and he was doing ministry as a youth pastor up near State College. So a couple hours away from each other, but in Pennsylvania. So then we got a job down here, and Brian was commuting back and forth all the time for a while, and I was still up working at my teaching job, and it was just kind of chaotic. But yeah, we lived together for 9 months, and it was amazing. I loved it. We played Settlers of Catan like every night. Like you would have thought, like, okay, that was a true test. Yeah, you know, living with each other day in and day out for 9 months. And I loved it.
Oh, you did?
And that was a season where like Adam and I were walking through infertility, you know, and not able to have children. And, you know, that's just another blessing that it was for me to have her. And we ended up being pregnant around the same time with Lily and Brecken.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I'm sticking to this. When I went to meet Brecken in the hospital for the first time, that was the first time that Lily kicked inside my womb. I'm like, that's so crazy.
And they have such a special
They do. They're really good friends.
friendship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you got the triplets, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Willow she just loves her Hannah and Shiloh. So yeah. So it's a gift from the Lord.
And our kids, like, we're just family. Like, I have step siblings, and we're not the super closest, you know, family because they're in different states, and we're 10 and 6 years apart. And Brian's not the closest with I can't, sorry, I have to edit that, with his brothers. And I just feel like Adam, like you're my sister, you're my friend. It's just, and our kids, they're like my niece and nephews, you know, like
that's so sweet.
We're family and we get to do life together. And I love it. It's just such a blessing. It's not something that I feel like everyone gets to have. And I feel very fortunate.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it is truly a
never
blessing.
stop talking about it. Cause
Yes.
it's just
I love it.
Now, I do want to hit some questions while we're here because I think this is a good place to start. So the first one we have is, what does a godly friendship look like? Which I feel like you've given some context. So for that reason, I'm kind of tweak it a bit. How do you steward a godly friendship?
That's a great question.
That is a really good question.
I think in any relationship, you have to give it time. Like if you don't sow into that relationship with time, with energy, with love and being there, then it's not going to grow. I think for, Nicole and I, and for the friendships that I do have, we go through seasons. I think when you're a mom and you have a family and you have a husband, that's a different season of friendship. I think when you're a teenager and you have a friend group and you have friends, that's a different season. And what I would say to anybody who is in that season, like you being a teenager, anybody who's in a season of singleness where they're not married or have a boyfriend, so into those friendships and so into those relationships because they're so important. And that's what the Lord has for you right now, because I will tell you, and I've experienced it, and it's not a bad thing. It's just how seasons work. But when your friends then get married and when they find their life partner, their boyfriend, it changes. Your friendship will change.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to go through sometimes, because when you were that person for somebody, now you're no longer that person. It changes, but you still give them time. It just looks different. So Nicole and I, Marco Polo is how we stay connected.
It is. We talk daily. Sometimes we go on these Marco marathons. That's what we call them. And like, we'll send like 8 or 9 Marcos a day. And like, our kids are like, how do you have time to do this?
Oh, like the app Marco?
Yes,
Oh,
I know.
you
We're
were
probably
like,
aging
what?
ourselves.
So-
It's amazing though, because we can see each other.
Yeah.
And like, if we're having a hard day, we can be like, this is what's happening. And we can like pray for each other through Marco Polo.
That is
We do.
so
That's so
Because
cool.
you might think like, well, why don't you just call one another? We just, our lives are so chaotic. I'm at work.
Yeah.
She's doing homeschooling. So we have to kind of you have to be creative in how
I actually
you
look
do
forward
that.
to like seeing that I have like a notification from Erica.
That's sweet.
Marco Polo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can like listen to it at our leisure, whenever we have a moment.
Yeah. So I say you have to give it time, and you have to really kind of be intentional. I think intentional is one of, it's so important and I have friendships where like the other person is the person who always reaches out, and says, hey, do you want to get together for lunch? And I'm so appreciative of that. But whatever you reap, you sow. If you reap solitary, life, that's where you're gonna be.
Yeah.
But if you,
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I like your point about seasons. I think that is so true.
Yeah.
Because we're in a different season than what you are.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to have like that person or a few people, because we're not meant to do life alone. And we need that relationship, that friendship. Just we crave it. I feel like it's just like
It's human.
yeah. And I don't know if this is how it is for everyone, but in my journey through life so far, very few of the people that I were friends with in high school, I don't really talk to any of them. And it's not because I don't like them. It's just we've moved on.
Yeah.
And that's just a, kind of an example of the season. And there are some people from college that I might talk to on social media, but I think as the years go on, like you're probably going to have 1 or 2 really good friends.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some people might have more, but
Yeah.
I think it's hard to like have a ton of really close friends when you get older because
Yeah.
of the dynamics of husband and family and all that kind of stuff.
Marriage life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's cool because like I think some like girls, especially our age, they don't realize like singleness is a season. And they think, okay, it's just like boyfriend, and then it's like married. And I think like they rush into it, but they don't realize like where you are now, which is something that I feel like I've come to terms with. Like it's like, okay, because it's like because I heard like Heather said, when you get married, like your relationship with God also changes. Because like if God's like, okay, go to Jamaica, I'm like, okay, bye. But like if I'm like, I'm like, okay, I can go. But like if you're married, then you have to like talk it over with like your family and stuff. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if this ties into it, but it just came to me. One of my regrets in my high school years was being all in dating and neglecting my friends. I feel like I didn't sow into those relationships like I should have. I got too laser focused on just one person. And if I were to do that again, I would not. I would encourage you, even if you are dating, to don't forget your friends because you need them just as much. Yeah. Because it's just different.
Oh yeah, 100%. I would definitely. Yeah, and I mean, I've watched that happen, through college and things, and I just sometimes there are friendships that you will lose, and I can remember. Gosh, I was like 24, 25, grieving the loss of a friendship from college because, not going into detail, but basically of a divorce, and it was really hard. It was really, really hard to kind of let go of that friendship, and I still care about that person and where they are in life, but it's just not the same. It's different. But your friendships that you form, like, they matter. And I think like those people that cross your path in a season, they matter. Like one of my regrets in high school is not making enough time for people who I didn't get to know. I kind of was like, this is my friend group. This is who I'm going to hang out with. And I probably missed out on some really cool friends, in that season of life, and I think also it's just always been something that's hard for me is I'm an introvert. So being introverted, So, and I love people, but I need to recharge on my own, like by myself. I need my alone time. Yeah. So I think as I've gotten older, sometimes I'm like, I have my kids, I have my husband who needs me and needs my time. And then I need my time. And then what's left, I want to give that to my friends. And sometimes I don't do the best with that. Yeah. So,
yeah. And I think even in the seasons with the friends that you have, even if they don't withstand time, you learn things from each of those relationships. And it can even shape you into a better person too. Like, oh my goodness, like I learned a lot from what went well or what didn't go well.
I definitely think that like with friendships, there's like, so you can have friends that aren't Christian, but like also like, I always want like friends that are Christian, but also I feel like there's people in my school that I need to be that Christian for to like help them. But sometimes like you all, like, I don't know, I think there needs to be a balance because I feel like growing up, I always knew like, okay, stay away from the people that do this and like be friends with these people. But also I'm like, I've come to the realization like, okay, but like I need to be this person for those people. So it's like, there's a mix, like, like
that's actually segue to another question we have, which I think is important. It's why are godly friendships important compared to friendships with non-believers? As well as I kind of want to ask, how do you maintain friendships with non-believers?
I actually have a lot of friends who are non-believers in the sense that they might not say that they're non-believers. They, their religion is Catholic or they don't go to church, but they might say that they believe, and they're wonderful people and I love them dearly. But I also know what's important to me is to also have a friend that believes what I believe and knows, like from the perspective of eternity, who can hold me accountable if I'm struggling, and speak truth and Jesus truth to me if I'm having a hard time. And that's another thing in friendships, like you have to be vulnerable. And I'm not very vulnerable with a lot of people. I am vulnerable with a few. And she knows, like, if I'm struggling with something, like she's probably one of the first people I go to besides Adam, you know, and she can pray for me. And my non-Christian friends, that's not something that that pops into their head to do, you know, and prayer changes things. So to know that I have praying friends is important. So I would say that that's probably like top for me. And I know, Ireland, when you talk about having friends who aren't Christian, that's important too. You know, because I want to be a light, and I want to be a person that they know that I have faith, that they can come to me to pray for them, you know, if they feel that.
It's definitely good to have a good balance, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely. I believe the same thing. I have a lot of friends. I have a mix. I don't have a lot of friends, but in that small friend, like the small people I keep close, I have a good mix who are Christian and who are not. And sometimes it kind of, even with my non-believer friends, it's interesting to hear their perspective on things, because it allows me to be like, not only does, in a weird way, increase my faith for them and for myself, but it also like, okay, now I understand where you're coming from. What does God say about this? So I think I think like you were saying, it is important to have like a balance, a little bit of both as well, but still standing firm on what you believe.
Yeah.
And I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
You're quiet today.
No, I'm just thinking, and processing. I'm like, okay, should I mention this? No, I think especially if I look back to my younger days, and being around a lot of non-Christian people that were my friends, and I love them dearly. I think it's easy to get caught up in the traps and things of doing or saying things that you know contradict what you believe. But as I've gotten older, it's easier to kind of guard myself against that and not get sucked in, and kind of almost like, no, like, okay, like I can only let them in so far, or I can only tell them certain things because they're not. If that does that make sense?
No, it does. Yeah.
Almost guarded in a way, but you have to protect your heart too. And like, I know I could tell you anything, and
and judgment free too.
Right.
Yeah,
I think that's also important to know. Like,
and that's hard. That's hard to navigate and figure out, especially when you're younger and you want to be accepted and not rejected. And, but yeah, like, I know if I were around non-Christian people all the time, it would be, and they're like swearing and doing all kinds of things like that. I know it would be very easy to pick up, because I did that in high school.
Yeah.
And you're not even trying to do it. You just do it. So I think that's challenging. Not getting caught up in to things that go against what you know are right or wrong, but still wanting to have those friendships, and, you know, because everyone deserves to have friends, and we're not against non-godly people. Because there are some amazing, you know.
yeah, how are they going to come to know Christ?
Yeah.
I was reading something recently. So J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote, the Hobbit books. I actually have never read. I read The Hobbit in like 8th grade. But I never read the Lord of the Rings series. No, but I did see the movie.
I don't think I've read the books.
But he was a professor, and so was C.S. Lewis over in England. And they would get together and they would kind of talk as friends. And C.S. Lewis was not a Christian, and J.R.R. Tolkien was. And it was through their friendship and through meeting together, they'd get together every Thursday night at this English pub, and they would, talk about what they believed, and talk about mythology and just different things. And that's how C.S. Lewis came to become a Christian. And I think about that.
It's crazy.
And what he then did, and the books that he wrote, impacted so many lives and probably led so many people to Jesus. So I feel like we can't, and I often think about this with our kids, because I know that is, I'm like, I want them to just have Christian friends, because I want them to have that Christian influence. And then I think, but we we can't do that because they have to be able to talk to others and maybe lead them to Christ. And you know, I just think that that's also.
And you can lead people to Christ without like saying it, you know, like, I mean, I think about how many people just watch, like people are watching, people like see how you are acting and interacting with people, and they watch your life. I know for Brian and I know people watch, and I know we are role models to some capacity, and we don't necessarily have to get on a pulpit and say anything, but you can just be a certain way around non-Christian friends, and that could be the key there.
Yeah.
Well, you walk it out. Like, it's not just like sometimes that is a problem. I know I've dealt with that in the past. Like, oh, I'm a Christian, or I'd like.
And they like don't know you're a Christian, then you're like, oh, what did I do wrong? Like, you know?
Or not just that, or like I would consider myself a Christian and yet not walk it around the people.
You talk the talk, but not walk the walk.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And so now I'm blanking out, but that's.
So my question, I guess, to the two of you who are both in public school.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Same
And
school.
so you're around a population.
Central.
Whoop, whoop. You're around a population that can be challenging. So are you vocal, or are you more like, I'm going to live my life, and if they ask, then I will share? How's that go?
I mean, I definitely have moments. I wear like this to school so that they know. They call me Bible girl. But yeah, I think if I'm close to you and like you're not, like I'll say stuff. Like I think it was a couple weeks ago, we were walking down the hall and they were like, "Oh, God's dead. Stop living for him." And I just kind of like shared it. But like I don't like say like much unless it's like spoken to. But I think like if I'm close to you, then like I'll talk about it. And I'm very like free about like my faith and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how I go about
And social media too,
Yeah, I post
right?
my
Like,
entire social media is like God and stuff, and like so I think definitely like I'm more vocal. Like if you would have asked me like 2 years ago to do that, I'd be like, But, like now I'm just like more like open
You're
to
free.
it.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you. I kind of am the same way. I mean, you complain about it all the time. I don't interact with people really in school. I'm very to myself in school, but the people I do interact with, they've said it, like they could tell something was different because of my actions, and then like they would ask me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, like da 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 da, like this is what I believe, and I always get a surprising reaction is because surprisingly a lot of my friends have religious trauma, as they put it.
Yeah.
So they're always fascinated to see people like me in Ireland who are open about our faith but not hateful.
Yeah.
And it kind of draws them in. Like I've had friends who were kind of like that, and then they would ask me these really tough or fascinating questions about Christ that I never would expect them to ask me, almost a little more open than other people.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's usually how people find out, like because I don't really interact, but that's usually how they find out. It's like, oh, something's different. And I'm like, well, actually it's because of
this. Yeah. I mean, I think
God.
There's a lot of people that think like Christianity is a bunch of rules. And it's more like they look at it as like, I see it as like, it's like not a religion, it's a relationship. But like people always see it as like, okay, like you're a real follower, things like that. So I think that's kind of how I reach people. Cause like, I think I'm not like, okay, like you repent right now. Like, no, I don't like ever do that. Like I'm just like talking freely. Like he's like a guy that, just comes to class every day.
Yeah. Like I've seen you interact with your friends in school who aren't believers. Yeah. So yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah. Yeah.
And you never know who's watching. You never know who's like.
It's the way you put it, Nicole, is like someone's always watching. Like I just like, oh,
Somebody's watching.
Exactly. I was like, oh my goodness. It was like because you just like stop for a second. You're like, they're always watching.
Yeah.
Like that's scary.
Sorry. Too many movies.
No need to be sorry. It was just the funniest thing to me because there's like a pause and you're like, they're always watching us.
Somebody's always watching. Well, you were like, yeah, people watch me and Brian's lives all the time. I'm like, it's like a camera in your house or something.
I don't know, baby.
Oh no.
Somebody just like
I hope
right in the window.
You can go home and check that.
Yeah.
normal people. We are just normal.
Yeah.
As you know from my husband, though. He's pretty.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
we definitely.
Yeah, your husband is.
He doesn't hide anything.
Oh yeah, he's funny.
He's quirky, but he's a really great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not an introvert.
No.
Oh my
I
gosh,
think
no.
like
Definitely not.
it's interesting. I'm thinking about it. We're opposites, I feel
That's
like,
what I
in
was thinking.
personality to some degree. And so are Brian. So Brian and Erica are very similar.
Yeah,
and
that's
Adam
what
and
she
I
was
are more similar, I think.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm a happy medium.
Yeah. And then we did say Adam's his own little island
Yes,
of
he is.
uniqueness.
You should have seen him on Sunday. It was so funny. It was like pouring down rain. This man had a coffee. He had an umbrella, and then he had an umbrella, and he was running out to people and like giving them an umbrella. So funny. I was like, Erica, come get your man. So funny. I love him.
No, he's like on Sunday mornings, Matt Graham is in charge of him. Like I don't have to have any responsibility
Yeah.
on
No,
Sunday
I've
mornings.
seen that. Yeah.
I
It's
was
like
like-
a little personal babysitter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always like, Matt, he's yours today.
Yes.
He's not mine.
So funny.
Because one Sunday, this is off topic. One Sunday, I like wearing hoops, so I had like really big hoops, and he comes up to me. He's like, "Man, I think he meant to say he could fit his whole arm in my door knocker, but he's like, man, you could fit someone's thigh in that." I was like,
A door knocker.
He probably, yeah.
big
Yeah.
Right.
earrings. He was like,
I'm not
"Man,
surprised.
That is just so funny.
thigh in
He's
there."
just so like,
Okay,
oh my gosh, it's
good morning
funny.
to you too. Like,
Pastor. Yeah.
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 Oh.
I think friendships are almost like best like that when there is kind of like a little bit of opposite. Like
Yeah.
me and my
Yeah.
best friend are pretty much the opposite.
Yeah.
Um,
It's weird how that works out.
Yeah, it is.
but I think it creates strong accountability.
Yeah.
Because someone could see something that another person could see. Which actually, can we touch on that for a second?
Yeah.
How do you guys like maintain healthy accountability, and how do you deal like, let's say conflict arises and you're gotta be like, hey, I gotta let you know something, and keeping that civil.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I will say that one of like in friendships for me is very minimal drama. Like the moment I have, an issue with somebody, or if there's something off, like I do, God has given me the gift of discernment, and I'm very thankful for that. And there have been seasons where it's just like, I'm going to guard my heart on this relationship, So I really don't run into conflict too much. I mean, with Nicole and I, it's not like that. However, the accountability side of things, if I'm struggling, if there's something that I need to confess, I think it's just important that you do that you have somebody that you can kind of say, hey, this is an area where I'm struggling in. I'm confessing it to you, and I need your prayer, and that is, that takes time to have with somebody. Same thing, like if there is conflict and there is something that you need to say to somebody, it has to come from a place of like love and knowing that person first,
Yeah.
So friendships can be tricky though.
They
And
can,
I see it with my daughter sometimes, and choosing friendships, we talk about what is a friend and what do we look for in friends and how to be a good friend.
That's a
Yeah.
good conversation
That
to
is.
have.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of parents do not have that conversation. Like, that's
I definitely think like I've had a lot of conflicts with friends, and like I feel like in my season like I've had to like let go of some friends, but I also learned like you can forgive somebody, but that doesn't mean you have to let them back into your life.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
And
really
like
good.
that's something, because I feel like okay, like I think that was my problem in the past. Like okay, I forgave them, so now they can come and it just was like okay,
Yeah, and I see that a lot in friendship. Even when I was a fourth grade teacher, I would see that in especially female like relationships,
Yeah.
where they would just keep returning and going back to that same friend who maybe wronged them, and maybe there needs to be some like just distance, between the two,
Yeah.
and that's it's good forgiveness. Yet knowing that I need to set a healthy boundary
Yeah.
in this relationship.
That's the key. We're reading a book
Boundaries.
for book club, Boundaries.
I haven't started.
Yeah.
I haven't.
I need to do that.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. We're in a book club.
Nicole's like one
I
page
could
and she's
see
done.
that.
Oh, we love
I'm
it.
looking at both of you. I'm like,
Book clubs.
Book clubs, Settlers of Catan.
Yeah.
It's like nerd central.
We need to.
Yeah, we need to play that. I know my mom wanted to invite
Yeah.
you all over to play that. I don't get it. I looked at the box.
You will. It took me a while to get it too.
I know.
Yeah.
It's great though,
Yeah.
Ayana. You'll love it.
Yeah. I mean, I echo what you said. We don't really have conflict, but I think we just know each other so well. And I think we're able to just cheer each other on when we're having a rough day. Just kind of, as parents, as moms, we can relate to a lot of things. And I'm going to be more seasoned in teens than she will be, so she can come to me for that season. I'm just finding that, sometimes you just get stuck in this rut where it's like you feel like nobody else has experienced this, and you end up trying to do it all on your own. And like that's part of friendship, like you aren't meant to do it alone. And like there are people like you, and other people out there that you can just go to and be like, I'm struggling with this. But yeah, just we talk about like, our prayer life stinks right now, or what, whatever. We're just open, and we can just kind of encourage each other and pray. And
That's really cool.
Well, we are actually 45 minutes in.
What?
Yeah, that went by fast. But there are a few Bible verses I had that I realized I didn't mark which ones are which. Like, oh, this goes with this or that. So I'm going to choose a random run to read.
okay.
Can I borrow your phone? Because I didn't bring my
Oh
Bible over.
She's got them.
printed
She
out.
has them.
There is a reason.
Wow.
Bless you. Okay. Oh, that's the one I wanted to read. There we go. Ecclesiastes 4:9 through 12. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up.
Yeah.
There is a really cool story in the Bible in Exodus that I always think about with friendship. So Moses was in the wilderness and leading the Israelites, and they were getting picked on by the Amalekites, and there was a big battle. And so some of Moses's men were in this battle, and the Lord asked Moses to go on top of this mountain, and he had his like staff, and as long as Moses was holding that staff in the air, they were winning. But the moment that staff like would come down, they would lose. And he was getting tired. He was so tired. I don't know how long this battle was. It probably was a long day.
Yeah.
But his brother Aaron and this other man, Hur, went up on top of that mountain. And during that fight, they like pushed this stone up behind him so he could sit down. And then one got on one side and the other got on another side, so that he could hold up his hands so that they could be victorious. And I always think about that, because in friendship and in seasons of your life, like some days you're going to be the Moses who's struggling, who just needs friends to come alongside and like lift you up and be able to get through in order to be victorious. And then sometimes you're going to be the Aaron or the Hur who's holding up your friend. And I think that Ecclesiastes verse is that, because I can tell you in my 43 years of life, like, and hers too, we've had to walk through some really, really hard things.
Yeah.
And if I had to do those hard things alone, I can't imagine where I'd be, you know? And so I think it's important to remember to like, if you don't have that friend, pray for one to come alongside of you. God hears that and God will answer that for you.
He will.
So
Yeah. I think it's also cool how like your spouses are also like a really good friend too. So like even if you don't have each other, like you have like Adam and Brian, which are like, which I think is really
It's
good. That like,
interesting too. I feel like this is the case, and maybe it is for most friendships, but I feel like if one's like in a slump, the other one's not.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
you're
like,
never both in the slump.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like I think that's it's like that for a
kinda-
reason.
yeah.
Like, that's just how,
well,
how
I
it
think
is.
if you see your friend who's,
You
in
don't
this
want to be in a slump together.
bad place, you don't want to like
Yeah.
lead them down, even
Yeah.
like, woe is you. Like, no, let me bring you up to
Yeah.
this. Yeah. And remind you.
That is
Of who you
true.
are.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Well, 48, 30, well, 40 now.
Oh wait, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
You can ask
On
a
camera, I
question.
need to know.
Oh.
Are you team Sheets or Wawa?
Oh my
That's the
gosh.
big
Oh,
debate.
sheets.
Yes, that
Friendship
is so good.
over.
Yes,
We may
Erica.
have to discuss
But-
this.
No.
Me and Erica are best friends
Listen.
now.
No.
I grew up near Pittsburgh,
And
and sheets just, it's,
That is amazing.
All right, Maple or Duncan?
Duncan, 100%.
Duncan. I do
Maple.
agree. I do agree with Duncan.
I'm usually on the out with Duncan, but
For real.
If I want
still
like
love
coffee,
you.
I'm the only one
yeah.
in
I
my family.
disagree with you.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be friends and still like.
Yeah.
We didn't have Maple Donuts in Philly or in Florida.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, I
if
know
I
Wawa's
want
a
like
Philly
coffee, I
thing.
guess Dunkin'. But if I'm going for a donut, I'm gonna go maple.
Yeah.
They're fresh.
they get
Don't you go every Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
That-
like
I
a
know.
tradition.
It is.
Family tradition. I love
Always.
That's
it.
adorable.
What's your favorite donut there?
Depends on what I'm feeling. I love like the sugar ones. You know, like just so good. Such a grandma when it comes.
I just
to
like
that.
the glaze. The
Their glaze is so good.
Yeah.
This is like when they come out hot.
Hot.
So good. Sometimes they
Never
come
had a
out
hot
fresh.
donut.
Really?
Donut.
Warm donuts are so good.
With icing? Doesn't it not melt?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
It's not like
I'm
boiling,
learning
like
new
Yeah.
things every day.
Sorry for taking over the podcast,
You're
but I had to
good.
know.
That's
You had to have it
I'm
on
surprised you
record.
did not know that.
Every time the Connolly's are on, they make sure it's known.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Oh my,
sheets.
Erica.
It's so good. Yeah.
Love it.
That's funny.
Tell that to Brian later. He'll smoke
gonna cry.
out of the ears.
We have a sheets hat up there.
I know.
That's part of the joke. Huh?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Got
But
that
I do
for
have
them.
a picture
Yeah.
of you
Love
with a Wawa bag.
I have a picture of you with the sheets bag.
Yeah, but that was for it was actually DoorDash because I needed a
So
drink.
yeah.
So anyway,
And mine was actually for Brian, so it wasn't for me. So
whatever. Anyways, so
signing off.
yeah, exactly. Anybody open to closing us out in prayer before? Y'all can rock, paper, scissors if need be.
Sure. I'll close that.
Really? Are you okay, babe? All right, go for it.
All right. So Heavenly Father, I thank you for this evening, and I thank you just for the ladies who are sitting here today. And Lord, we thank you for friendships, and we just pray, Lord, that you would continue to lead us to be good friends to one another, and lead people to us who are in need of a friend. And we just thank you for your friendship, Lord. And we just pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
And that is the end of this episode. I want to thank you guys for coming.
Yes,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
us.
Yes,
It was
it's
fun.
Come
amazing.
up with another.
You girls
thing
are great.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys
They
do
are.
a
Yes.
fantastic
We'll
job.
have another meeting at Olive Garden. So yes, we are gonna do
Yes,
that.
we're gonna do it.
Okay, like after
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
breadsticks. Is all that.
sorry,
I'm
guys.
This
hungry.
is so
I'm
good.
really
Like
hungry
some
right now.
Alfredo.
Alfredo dipping sauce with the
Yes.
breadstick.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so good.
I like the salad because like they keep doing the cheese
Yes.
and like she looks at me like I was like, "Or are you gonna stop?"
You
and
just
I'm like,
keep
no.
going.
Nope.
Yeah,
Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Olive Garden it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
good.
We gotta set a
It's a
date.
date. Yep.
Follow us at Faith Like Birds on our TikTok, our Instagram,
Spotify.
our Spotify.
Well, Gen free, I guess.
Yeah, Gen free
Spotify.
Spotify, but it would be an Apple podcast. Thank you, Michaela. I was blanking out.
Yes.
This has been lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
And
coming.
signing off. Adios. Goodbye. Good night.
Free from goodbyes.